Hello, I'm Casey Mitchell, and I'm working with Caitlyn Seadler and Marshal Ngobidi, and we are here to discover the importance of forensic psychology in the law.
There are 5 different roles a psychologist can occupy in the legal system. The first role is the role of the basic scientist, which becomes an interest of the law when we overlap with them. A basic scientist does research when it's needed and has minimum interaction with the legal system, but it does happen. The next role is an applied scientist. Applied scientist is one who attempts to conduct research that has direct application to real-world problems. A policy evaluator evaluates policies of the court to see if they're having their intended effect. A forensic expert is a mental health expert who is asked to make evaluations about a defendant's competency, sanity, or the level of dangerousness. The final role a psychologist can have in a legal system is to act as a consultant. A consultant offers their services to the attorneys to help with things such as jury selection, community assessment, or witness preparation.
By the end of this video, we hope to reveal the significance of psychology's role in the legal system. Throughout our presentation, we will disclose interviews with Dr. Clayman, Judge Goodwin, and Lieutenant Johnson. We will present the positive and negative effect of forensic psychology has on the law. We will introduce our topic by defining psychology's specific roles within the legal system. Now we'll take a look at forensic psychology. Forensic psychology is the interface between psychology and the law. Forensic psychology is not a forensic science, but they are closely related. It provides a psychological service for the legal community. A forensic psychologist does the work that is both clinical and forensic in nature. They actually develop into psychological perspectives and apply them to the criminal justice system.
Psychology, in my understanding, is the way in which the mind works, why people make the decisions that they do, the justification for the decisions they make. So forensic psychology is the application of those thoughts or ideas as related to the field of law enforcement. It's the scientific application of those principles to investigations.
Forensic psychology is the specialty area where psychology interfaces with the law, and it can involve criminal work, civil litigation, the trial process, and even corrections. We have a broad-based practice here. We do a lot of criminal litigation work, which is mostly competence to stand trial, criminal responsibility, diminished capacity, and risk. Okay? And sometimes we do pre-trial to kind of, we do post-sentencing, post-trial, pre-sentence sex offender evaluations to determine for the corpus required by the law that they have a psychological. We do that. We do habeas cases where people in prison thinking they've been not treated right. We do risk assessments in the commercial world, and I think that's the question you asked, is that there's a whole literature on risk assessment. And so we do in the criminal world, we talk about what's the risk of this person. We've done parole, we've done pre-parole evaluations. We do hundreds of those a year. Yes. People who are not trained and don't understand the role can cause an enormous amount of problems, because if a jury or a trier of fact believes an expert, then they can bias a case, and then what you get into is, instead of having us being objective, comprehensive evaluators, we end up having to be a battle of two expert opinions. You negate what's going on. Yeah. So, you know, we have a responsibility to the legal system to do it right. And we have guidelines from the American Psychological Association for Forensics. We have the Ethical Code for Forensics. We've got a whole bunch of other standards of practice that you've got to do for child abuse, neglect stuff, or eyewitness testimony, all of that stuff. And if you don't know the literature, you don't take your role seriously, you can be an interference to the system, and you can be an unnecessary burden to the system.
Depending on the case, forensic psychology might be involved in mental capacity in terms of IQ, level of function, sensitivity context, describing damages that occur to an individual. Depending on the context, there are many times where the testimony of the psychologist is very helpful. You may have a PhD, but you may not be able to testify in the case. Full of evidence, the reliability of the testimony evidence. trying to ensure that the true testimony is reliable, not just junk science. Is your testimony the product of a pure science? Has the idea been tested? Has it been accepted before allowed in the court? You can't just give opinions. Judges has to review it. Careful rules in place that govern scientific testimony. Proven reliability is the key.
For the most part, I can't say that we have any interference from forensic psychologists. In our investigations, it typically comes to a point where we understand that there's certain aspects of an investigation that we are not prepared or specialized enough with in order to understand that aspect of the investigation. And that's therefore then when we would call upon a forensic psychologist in order to assist us with that investigation. So we don't find them pushing themselves on us in any way. Normally we're requesting them.
Yes, the evidence from any case can affect the jury. That's why there are rules. That's why we evaluate the testimony, the evidence, and so forth. Only allow evidence that goes directly with the case, but the jury has the right to ignore the evidence and witness testimony. Basically, the jury have the ultimate decision.
Involved much on the whole jury selection part. That's the job of the prosecutor's office. I guess my answer is a little bit twofold. If you're asking where psychology fits in law enforcement, it's virtually every aspect of everything we do because we deal with people.
Yeah.
But if you're asking where a psychologist fits into law enforcement, then typically that's either going to be, from my perspective and from my 21 years of experience, it's going to be in the courtroom to explain a defendant's actions or help the jury better understand where the defendant was coming from. Or it's going to be in an investigation, similar scenario I gave you earlier. If you've had, we'll use an example of sexual assaults, a series of sexual assaults that we believe are committed by a singular offender. Through the use of a forensic psychologist, we can better understand where he may strike next, the type of victims that he's going for, things of that nature. So that's the two areas where I see it the most.
Fits into law where it's reliable, helps to find the truth.
We're not experts in the field, but we learn psychology even though we don't realize we're being taught psychology.
You have to, I mean, you can't be, I'm a jack of all trades. I do criminal, civil, I do expert testimony, I do trial consultation, I do jury work, I do a whole bunch of different things, but I've been doing this for almost 40 years. If you're a student and you really enjoy it, you have a role in all of those things. We'll do white papers, research, to say, I did a thing on alcohol blackouts, and they're fragmentary and en bloc blackouts. And if they're fragmentary blackout, there's a sequence. And if there's an en bloc blackout, there's no sequence that goes away. It doesn't get encoded. Well, that has to do then, we had a case where kids were doing recall of memory. Was that really possible? And so what I did is a white paper for the court to determine whether there was a reason to go on. So there's the almost the applied science. Or okay, and then when I'm testifying, battered woman syndrome, which is a big deal now with Mrs. Stewart, that was in the paper recently. I'm the expert in that case. And the judge disallowed any expert testimony on battered woman, but I know battered woman syndrome literature inside and out, and it's not what everybody thinks it is. And so you have to be able to go in. So there I'm doing I'm in an expert role, and you can be a fact-based witness where you don't testify about the case. You testify about the issues involved in the case, but you don't talk about the case per se. And then you can be an expert witness, which is gives you far more latitude to bring things in. And most experts aren't science-based. Most experts, at least in our jurisdiction, don't take the time to do the literature search, to do the references, to do the kinds of things. In my reports, we put literature in our reports to back up our clinical opinions. So we can be all. And there's no, as long as you're trained and as long as you know the limits of your experience and knowledge and capabilities, we have a role in each one of those areas and each one of those roles. That's a funny question. Absolutely, to the exclusion of all other professions. How's that for that? I think that we're the best trained. If you're trained as a clinical psychologist and you get forensic training, we are the profession that I believe is best able to assist triers of fact in doing their jobs. Why I'm doing this to you is to let you know that this is a specialty area. If you walk out of here a little bit overwhelmed by what I've done in an hour, I want you to be, because this is what we do every single day of the week.